Hi, guys. Welcome back to another version of the Purposeful Wisdom Podcast. It is yours truly, Dawn Christine. Thank you guys so much for being here. I love doing this podcast. You guys have been so supportive. I can't thank you guys enough. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Help me grow this channel. I bring you guys the best of the best on this platform to elevate yourselves for holistic healing, mind, body, spirit. That's what this channel is all about. So share, like, subscribe, leave comments. I love to read y'all's comments. Give me topics that you want me to talk about on this show too. Give me ideas. If there's something that I haven't covered yet, let me know so that I can find the expert for you. Without further ado, I have the wonderful Diane Randall on the show today. Diane is a passionate and dedicated individual committed to promoting wellness and balance in life. With expertise in areas such as life balance, mental wellness, self-care, self-realization, plant-based nutrition, and whole life wellness, Diane is an energized advocate for holistic well-being. As an accomplished author, consultant, speaker, and college instructor, Diane has a wealth of experience in the field of wellness. Her practical approach includes teaching stress management and resiliency techniques to Chicago police officers, catering to the needs of busy professionals seeking effective wellness strategies. Diane's impact extends beyond her live engagements. She is a respected professional speaker and podcast host, sharing her valuable insights with a diverse audience. Expertise has been featured in renowned publications such as Vegan Street, Plant Pure Nation, New York Times, Balance, Choice Consulting magazines, The Active Times, and American Holistic Health Association. With numerous guest appearances on podcasts and even a feature on the Oprah Winfrey Show, where she discussed successful relationships. Diane has proven her ability to connect and inspire. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I love this girl. I mean, I just love the doors that I'm opening with this podcast and meeting such beautiful individuals such as yourself that are here to help promote healing and well-being. And I always like to start off the show with what brought you into this journey of holistic well-being to inspire and help others in your journey?
Well, I must say, it wasn't one thing. I didn't plan this at all. It really started many years ago when I was really young, just wanting to be happy. Didn't have any idea of what that meant. So before that, I had a sister that was murdered by gunshots, and that I think that opened me up for the
Wow.
path because I'm navigating through my 20s. Really, there was a sadness. There was now I realize I was depressed
Right.
when I look back, but not wanting to be in that state, wanting to be happy and not knowing what that meant. And at that time in my young mind, I felt I didn't know anybody that was that happy.
Right.
Just a
Right.
young teen, just about looking out. Okay, I don't know what it means to be happy, but I know that this isn't where I want to be.
Right.
So I started back then, the internet wasn't a big thing. Normal people weren't using it. So I would read books. I would find authors that I liked, and one thing would lead to another. I would read the book. They may have a DVD or a CD at the time, and then I find myself at lectures, and just that yearning to want to feel differently just kept leading me down different paths. So if I went to a spiritual lecture or I heard someone say something that resonated, that's what I was attracted to, whatever resonated at the time. And fast forward, I ended up going to life coaching school, not to become a life coach, but it just seemed like that could help me. But I became a life coach. I became a behavior change coach because I loved the curriculum, and the lectures were really helping
Right.
me to heal from the inside out. I went to nutrition school because I realized, when I was coaching back then or looking at life, that I needed to figure out what was good for my body, because at the
Right.
time the stress was high, high
Oh yeah.
blood pressure at a really young age. So that played a big part of my life. And just becoming that holistic health coach, and then to just round it all out, 10 years ago, I got a master's in spiritual psychology. So all that, even though the education helped, but it was the journey, the life
Right.
experience. So over time, I started feeling lighter. I started feeling actually happy. I didn't feel like I was carrying a lot. And people would ask me, "What am I doing?" They wanted to hear about things. So I would share that information. I had no idea I would be doing the work that I do today. It's
Wow.
definitely evolved. I've evolved into this work. So just trying to heal, trying to be happy, wanting to support people also where they are. When I felt better and people would ask me about it, I shared that. I shared
Right.
that. So that's what led me to become a teacher of curriculum. I always say I teach classes that help us live our lives.
Right.
Like healthy boundaries, plant-based nutrition, how to relate to ourselves, how to make negative self-talk our friends, just all those courses that help us to be loving and kind to ourselves.
Absolutely. And it's a whole trifecta too, because I have my certification in nutrition too. So I'm also a health coach. So I'm a certified life coach and health coach. I did a double like curriculum for that. And I realized even when you get into
Okay,
nutrition that our bodies are what we feed them, and the
that's
slow
right.
burning
That's right.
carbohydrates versus the fast burning carbohydrates. And you learn about these things that, wow, like sugar
That's
slows us
right.
down and it affects our mind space, and,
That's
and
right.
all these things are
That's right.
connected. And I love how you just combined everything for like the whole package, the entire trifecta of well-being. I love that.
And it was one thing at a time. I mean, when I started helping people with time management, stress, initially I didn't factor the food in. Just over time, I realized, okay, health is a big component of this. What I put into my body is a big component of this. And it's not just my body, it's my mind that really is the driver in all of this. So it really came together, and it starts from the inside out.
Yep.
It starts from, I mean, you can heal from the external world.
Right. And I always feel like we're our own first clients too.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Especially
yeah.
healers of the world and coaches, and we have all these titles, but at the same time, we have to practice what we preach because we're our own role model, and then we're projecting that onto our clients. Like, listen, we were our own first clients. We had
That's
to do
right.
the work and try and figure out what works, what doesn't work, what goes together, and then that
Absolutely.
knowledge gets passed on to our clientele, like hands down.
Absolutely.
What
Absolutely.
what is your most favorite part of your practice? Like, do you love more like one thing over the other as far as relationship coaching or mindset, or do you feel that it often encompasses it's each other when you coach and when you
I
help
my
clients?
my favorite thing to do is teach. I realized that over the years. My favorite thing is to teach, is to share information, is to share information to help someone in their life. And then recognizing that over time, I see something different about them. You know, they heard something, they incorporated it, and now their life is better. So I would say teaching and those conversations, those one-on-one conversations, I love those too, because we're all in different places in life. And in my teaching, I love to meet people right where they are. I always tell them you don't have to be in a certain spot, you don't have to have this or that. Just be open and willing, open
Yep.
and willing. And then I have people that even show up to my classes and they say, well, I I haven't done any of this work. And I say, the fact that
Bingo.
you showed up,
That's the
that
first
says
step,
a lot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they go, real? Oh, really? Yes, yes. The fact that you showed up here today, and they may not even be ready for anything other than the fact that they showed up. And guess what? That is really good. That is okay, because
that's
it's
right.
about meeting you right where you are, no judgment on anything. And people are shocked, because I think in society we're so used to getting slapped around by messaging or
Oh
whatever,
yeah.
So it is refreshing. And I always say, I'm meeting you right where you are.
That's key too. I mean,
Yep.
especially that you take away the judgment because, that's fear-based too. Everyone, especially with social media and the media itself and society, there's all this pressure to perfect everything. And oftentimes, that's when the guilt and shame comes in, like, oh,
Yes.
I'm not where I need to be. So I'm gonna
That's right.
come off as, not good
That's
enough.
right.
And taking away those expectations and just literally showing up as you are and having professionals meet you where you are it's relieving, where there's no judgment, there's no, like, I'm here to help you. I genuinely from the bottom of my heart want to help, and I accept you as you are, and it's a seed. I feel like even them showing up to the class, like whether they realize it or not, that's a small seed because they're gonna listen to the lecture, they're going to listen to what you're going to have to say, and then they're going to absorb that and take away with it and then go back and think on that.
Go back and think on that. And now I've also started I call it a plant-based curious community, because I think our work is more important now than ever, with just what you said, the societal messaging, um, messaging that tells us we to focus on celebrities and not ourselves, to beat ourselves up because we don't look like someone. I feel that my work is more important today than ever, because of all the things out in the world, and how we feel about ourselves. I think it's all designed so that we're not happy, so that we are always looking out externally for comfort, for joy, for happiness. But I love helping people to integrate into inner work, because
Yes.
it's going to come from the inside out. So I feel more committed than ever now.
I couldn't agree more with that. And I love the fact also that you work with the Chicago Police Department. This is beautiful
Yes.
because especially, I've had guests previous, I've had, guests come on that were retired police officers. I've had retired military on the show already too. And there's I feel like that part, the men and women that give their lives to protect us, they're often neglected. They're just thrown to the side after the fact. And it's like, oh, well, you get to just deal with the consequences of war, of trauma. And I love the fact that you're helping the police force handle stress management and time management and really feel things and work through things. What does that look like?
It was very tough, because like you said, they they heard what I said, but they really couldn't embrace it, because they would tell me that, you know what, this is nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to happen. I'm still going to be in my overstress. My off days are still going to be canceled. I still have all this adrenaline, and nobody cares. So that was a big component. Even though they felt that the class was just going through the motions. A lot of them did, not everyone, but a lot of them did. But it gave me personally a window into what they deal with every day. And it was kind of eye opening because these are not all broken, tired people that are, you know, keeping things straight outside. I said, no wonder things are the way they are. Really short staffed, no sleep, tired, suicide next to doctors, is the highest
Right.
rate. Alcoholism, drug abuse. It is a sad, sad story. And I didn't know all this before that. So it was eye opening. I'm happy I had that experience because I wouldn't have gotten that window in, because this went on for like 6 months.
Right.
And I taught 3 days, 3 nights a week, and they would come through the college, and then I would teach my course. I met some awesome, awesome officers, but I also met people who clearly I felt this guy probably shouldn't be working.
Right.
And they would tell me, I haven't had an off day in 40 days, or and they have to deal with like raggedy cars. I mean, I heard a lot. But what I loved about that moment was, I don't know if a few years ago I would have been able to really teach the class, because I would have probably had my own frustrations, but it also showed me how I had grown as well, because I could be there and really want to be there to support and help without my own feelings, because this was around George Floyd.
Right. Right. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's the thing too, there's so much, especially with military and police, they're taught to push down their emotions, not show emotion. Like they don't understand the psyche behind that like you have to release, you have to feel, you have to be human. And if you don't
Well,
do those things and embrace those things, that's where disease comes in.
but
That's where all these
not
things.
only disease, but this is how a lot of outcomes happen, where people get shot,
Yeah.
because they have to. And that was a big, even
Yeah.
in class, a lot of them were not open to share how they really felt,
Right.
because the cops would explain to me, once they would come up afterwards and say that, they don't want to be seen as weak,
Right.
because their partner was see. I mean, I'm like, wow, look at all this trauma. They can't even be open enough to really heal and to hear something, because that happened over and over and over. Because I would ask questions about, okay, if you're, how are you showing up to these calls?
Right.
How are you showing up to these calls if you're stressed, you're tired? And a lot of them, it was like deer in the headlights sometimes. But I would say enough would come up and talk to me afterwards. But the fact that they didn't feel that they could do that was very interesting. So I learned a lot, and I'll be honest, I actually had more compassion because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, what a awful life.
Right. Right.
What an awful life. I literally had compassion for a lot of them in the way they have to work. And then
Absolutely.
it seemed like after that, a lot of them quit, because and I did like that they were being held more accountable
Right.
for what happens out in the field. So I
Yeah.
love that idea. A lot of them didn't like it, but they didn't have to like it, but they had a chance to vent.
Right.
But it really, I mean, when we talked about what were their stressors specifically, I just couldn't. wow, I'm like, they have to function under cars not working, radios not working, no off days, vacations canceled, and these are people with families, with kids.
Yep.
And then I ask an important question, and I'm not saying this is true for everyone. I was so curious about, I wanted to see a show of hands of who basically was a police officer because they had a passion and a purpose.
How
Very few.
many?
It
Yeah,
wasn't, I mean, it was, I don't even remember if I saw one hand, I'm going to be honest, unless they were afraid to raise it. I don't know.
right,
But most of it was for the benefits, for the retirement.
right,
So that, I mean, I love, and that's how I am. I want to be educated. I'm not there, I can stand in myself and not judge because of my curiosity. I just wanted to really learn. And that was a real good opportunity to learn, not judge in that moment who's bad and what was right and wrong, but communicate effectively. The coursework that I had to teach and learn from them. But it was really tough because I had a lot of resistance. Not for me. It wasn't directed at
right,
me. It was directed at knowing that nothing was going to change and they were just going through the motions because a lot of them wanted things to change so bad, but they knew that this was just something they had to do. So
right.
it was
And that's the
very
thing.
interesting.
And that's the thing, like I really hope down the line, these brave men and women realize they can, and that's the thing. There's no outlet for our military, our police force to really process. I mean, if you're out on a 12-hour shift, and sometimes now what you're saying, they're working doubles, they're working
That's
overtime because
right.
they're short staffed, you're going to trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma in so many hours. You have no time to process. That's building up in the body.
That's
And
right.
this is why things are escalating. And again, I don't say all officers because I know
No, 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 no. You're
the
right.
majority are good. There's always the bad apples in
There
any,
are, and I don't,
absolutely.
I feel that when you say there's the bad apples, and this is just, I feel that it is the information that's
Yeah,
passed down.
of course.
It's whatever the information is that passed down. I would
Absolutely.
love to see the police from that experience, I could say reimagined, because they're
Yes.
going on calls that they totally aren't equipped, like mental health, for example.
Right.
Some states have changed where mental health workers go on the calls. If they could just be focused on real active violence and that kind of thing, I think it would really help them because they get called for everything,
Yeah, they do.
everything,
Yeah.
everything, and they're not equipped
Right.
for mental health. You know
Right.
what I mean? But they get called for everything and they're not trained for everything. So, my wish after that and my hope was that the police department got reimagined. And in some states, they do have mental health workers going to calls. They also have other types of people doing traffic stops. I mean, it
Right.
hasn't caught on all over the country, but I have heard that some of it has changed. So that gives me hope. It really gives me
Right.
hope. And if some of those activities were redirected, I think that would help them as well.
I agree with that. I agree because we all have to work together, and
That's
we
right.
all we all have to realize we all bleed the same color. We're
That's
here
right.
to love each other and help each other and help each other. And the diversity in this country is disgusting. It disgusts me to my core because we're here to love and grow and learn from each other. And there's so much diversity and opinions out there, and that's what's dividing this country. And I really feel we need to get back to the basics. We need to learn to embrace each other and love each other and accept each other and come together and unify and love. and be there. And until that happens, that's why we have all this stuff going on, and it's just full with hate, and it's sad.
But
It's sad to see this.
I feel that it's just each one of us, like you said, doing our part, being that
Yeah,
loving person, bringing people together in our own way.
that's
Because
right.
what makes change is the collective, not one
That's
or two
right.
people. And I do feel that and there's a big part of this country that want things to remain the way they are, you know, the
Right.
racism and all that. I
Yeah.
wholeheartedly believe that. And I always say, if anybody thinks that, you know, that's gone, it's not. I mean, this country was founded on racism. But
Yep.
do I think we've moved forward a bit? Yes, I do. I mean, I explain to my kids, Jim Crow lasted 100 years.
Right.
So when they get frustrated, I always bring up, yes, you know, we can vote, you know, things have changed. So I have to get them to the bigger picture because yes, a lot of stuff still is not right. But it's going to take the younger people, the
Yes.
generations to pull things together because I feel that there's always going to be that element of people who don't want things to change.
Yep. And
And
inevitably
that
they
is
have to. They have
and
to.
evident because each generation, I feel the generation, my kids' generation, are just they're different.
Yeah.
They look at life differently. So that is hopeful to me as well. So I do believe over time, I mean, it's work. It's constant focus, work, and intention. And with that, I believe things can change. I really do. And I feel I optimism is the big thing here because if you lose your optimism, then nothing will change. And yes, everybody's vote, everybody's voice does matter. And you have to
That's
really
right.
believe that. You have
Right.
to
And
believe that.
that's so true. And I see it too in the Gen Z generation. Like they're coming out wholeheartedly advocating.
That's
And
right.
I love that. It's so inspiring because they're not afraid. They're
That's
not
right.
afraid. They're not afraid to speak up. They're
That's
not
right.
afraid to be genuinely who they are. They have
That's
something to
right.
say, they're going to say it. And it's powerful. It's so empowering. They embrace who they are wholeheartedly. They're not afraid to be the change. And they have the technology, they
Yep.
have the skills to really understand what's going on. I mean, the Gen Z generation alone is telling our generations and the generations before and teaching them about mindfulness, of teaching them
Mhm.
about being in the moment, living in the
Mhm.
moment, self-care, that they're challenging the old belief
That's right.
systems of
That's
the
right.
previous
That's
generation.
right.
And I love that. And
I
we
do too.
need that. We need this world to wake up and understand that change is inevitable. And if we as a collective can come together and embrace it together and teach each other, all the generations coming together and get out of that old belief system, that old mindset of
That's right.
it has to be black and white. No, it
That's right.
doesn't.
That's
Because that
right.
how is that working for
But
you? Like really?
here's the beautiful thing. The country's changing.
Yep.
It's changing. Even
Yep.
on forms now, I was filling out a form one day and I forgot some type of application, but it just didn't have black, white, and other. It had all
Yeah.
these other
That's
entries
right.
and I loved it. I loved it
Yes.
because here's what's happening. You can't just pick a box. It's
That's
getting too
right.
hard.
And that's the way
I
it should have been from the beginning, though.
pardon?
It should have been like that from the
Oh,
very
no.
start, if you ask
It's
me.
more of an evolution.
Oh yeah,
I love it. I love that it's getting harder and harder to just pick a box.
that's
That's
right.
all.
I couldn't agree, Diane, I couldn't agree more with you because realistically, we all are on this earth to not only follow our own path, but learn from each other, grow together,
That's right.
embrace each other. And my hope for this world is to get to a point in life where two different people from two different backgrounds, two different genders, two different opinions can still have a conversation. And even though they may not agree, they have a level of respect for each other as they agree to disagree, because there is so much diversity in this world. There's so many different opinions in this world. But if there's a way that we can all come together and listen to each other and hear each other different
I,
opinions and still respect each other for having different opinions, oh my God.
I feel that there's more people like that than the latter. There
Yeah,
is, but there are forces that don't want us to come together, and you have to
that's right.
understand that. But it doesn't mean, it means that we can use our own critical thinking skills, our own hearts, our own minds to make decisions about relationships and who we want to talk to and who we want to be. I think you just have to really stand in your power more these days to get
Yeah.
that point across. Yes.
And I love that. And that's why, I mean, that's why we have podcasts now.
That's
Like,
right.
it's such a beautiful platform to, you know, for me to come on here and be myself authentically and speak my mind and have awesome conversations. Like, that's what it's all about. Real authenticity, not being afraid to speak your mind. And more people are getting that courage. And like,
They're getting
this,
that courage.
right. And that's
And
what it
I,
takes.
I
It takes a village.
it takes courage to
Yeah.
be who you are and standing in your power without the groupthink.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, it takes courage. Like I have a podcast, Plant Based Curious, and it is harder to be vegan and plant based in this world than it is. But
Yeah, unfortunately
but
it is.
but I love it. I love it because if I just get people that are curious, I'm not saying you have to be anywhere, right?
Right.
But if you're curious and you have an open mind, which is what our work is really about,
Yes.
curiosity and having an open mind to hear a different perspective. That's what it's
Right.
about. And a perspective that could help you, heal you, give you different insight. That's what I love about the work.
And I want to touch base on that because plant-based nutrition, you know, this is something that a lot of us are hearing about. How do you educate others on plant-based nutrition, and how does it benefit the body versus the old fad of, you know, protein, you have to have a meat? What are the differences and how does it affect the body differently?
Well, it's about eating foods with no mother, no face, and that are grown in the ground. And what I can say from being plant based and vegan for 20 years is that it cuts down on disease. It cuts down on a lot of the mental issues that are caused by bad food and plaque, heart issues, dementia, the food related diseases, diabetes, a lot of chronic illnesses. So what I can say is, you know, for people that are open and curious, I always say, just try this one day, try this one step. And that's why I teach a class called How to Get Started on a Plant-Based Diet. And I teach science-backed facts, and I teach just trying one thing. Maybe try something for a week. And here's the beautiful thing. I have more and more people showing up to my class. I've been having this class on the schedule for a few years now. And I would say in the last year, I've had more people showing up. And it is beautiful because people want to hear, they want to know, they want to understand that the standard American diet, you know, if I don't believe it's killing me, then I'm just curious enough to see what's on the other side of that. What is plant-based? What does that mean and how can that help
Right.
me? So I have people showing up, and even the podcast, it is a platform to people to come and listen, and I even created a community. A community.
Beautiful.
So if people are interested, they can join. It's like 19.99 a month, okay? Because I just want people to show up.
Right.
And you don't have to, you're not converted, you know, there's no pressure. just come as you are. You don't have to be vegan. You can be a meat eater. You can be anything. But it's
Right.
about coming together and learning from each other about what does it mean to be plant-based? What does that lifestyle look like? And does it
Right.
really help my life? And I think more and more people are understanding that it doesn't. What I'm also excited about is a lot of my students are telling me that I'm here because my doctor said I should be more on a plant-based diet. And I'm like, wow, it's really catching
It
on.
is. Just look, and I mean, I've watched several documentaries on Netflix, on other different platforms about like what our food really contains and all the
That's right.
preservatives and how things are. I mean, oh, some of it it'll
It
scare the
it
crap out of you.
and
It's
here
scary,
it's scary, and here's the thing, even before I was plant-based, I was always a consultant, right? And I had to
right?
go into companies, a lot of food companies, so I had to help them in manufacturing, so I needed to know exactly what was in the product that they were making, and I'm not naming companies, but I worked at a lot of them. So I would see the ingredients that they had to put in the food. And that's how I learned that, the food was so bad. But back then I wasn't plant-based or vegan. I would just stop eating that particular food.
Right,
But I said, wow, what a blessing, because I had no idea I would be doing this work. So I literally have inside information.
yeah,
Okay. but but
rightfully
you
so.
but you can look at the ingredients and have your own inside information and
Oh yeah,
see what we're eating, because it's really killing us. And that's another reason I started the podcast, because I said, this crap is disguised as food. It's getting worse and worse and worse.
yep.
It's getting worse. And some of the things you can't even call food. So
No,
that is
oh,
my also what I and I just started this in 2023 because I felt, this is something that I can do. I can
right,
literally have conversation, talk to people and educate. And I always say, you don't have to listen to me. You can read this stuff. There's
right.
science, but I just want people to come together, like-minded people, to listen to the podcast, join the community, and we can have conversation. And that's a shift from just being on social media scrolling for hours. So that's
Right.
that's what I wanted to offer.
No, and you right on. And I can totally relate to that because, I mean, a lot of people go on social media and they're scrolling and they're looking at TikTok and stuff. And it's just like, there's so much education, like
Yep,
YouTube's more and all these platforms, there's so much more that they offer, educating others about different subjects. Whatever you want to know about, it's on YouTube. Like, let's face it, on all the platforms. There's a podcast about everything. And it's really educating yourself and finding the facts and then making that decision whether or
that's
not
right.
you want to be vegan, whether or not you still want to be a meat eater.
That's right.
But
That's right.
I look alone at how the food changed just from when I was a child to now,
Mhm,
how it's impacted my children.
mhm,
And I know, like, even with young girls, like, girls are developing faster, girls
mhm.
are going through things faster. Like,
Yep,
I
yep.
have no doubt it's because of the food.
That's
And I
right.
use food in quotations because a lot of the stuff, I agree with you, it's crap. It's all complex carbs, it's all preservatives,
Mhm.
there's no nutritional value in it. All it is sugar and things. And it's like, the food is tailored to set us up to fail. And
Yes.
I truly believe, like, all society, it's go, go, go. We haven't learned to slow down. So it's rush, 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 going through the McDonald's drive through, going through this drive through, eating quick whatever's. And what we're not realizing is we're feeding our body crap. And it's literally slowing us down and it's causing disease and it's causing all these things. So it's like setting us up for failure. It really is. And if we really just take a step back and look at, okay, back in the day, like, certain vegetables were grown organically and they were seasons for
Right.
vegetables. And now we have vegetables to our disposal, even that way. We have every type of vegetable and every type of fruit year round. Like,
That's
that's not
right.
normal. It's
Well,
Oh,
and part of what I teach in the classes that I teach, whether it's plant-based or boundaries or whatever, you have to live life with intention,
yep.
which means that you pay attention. Because when you're paying attention, it's hard for things that don't agree with you or don't agree with your body or your mind to get in. But when you're not paying attention, that's how all the little things come in and corrupt us, and then corrupt our bodies, corrupt our minds. And then one day we're like, oh my God, I got this, or I have this. It's really focusing on ourselves and not letting the messaging, which is what I call social media, the news, and all
Oh
those
yeah.
sources to to inundate us so much that it takes our minds and our bodies off of what's important, which is ourselves. Because a lot of this is created to keep us externally focused, to keep
Yep.
us following some celebrity who you're living vicariously through their life, and
Nope.
and not focused on who you are and
Right.
what you need to do. Because I always tell people, you matter. You matter. So how can
And
I
it's
get you to
easier.
pay attention to yourself?
Right. But you know what? Society has made it where it's so much easier to focus on something external than to go within
That's
and
right.
heal you and work on you. Like
That's
I
right.
don't, especially like social media, like I have my platforms literally to just like advertise my podcast and advertise my book and like things to help people. Like I
Right.
don't care about like honestly like what celebrity is doing what or like how does that affect me? I don't get care. Like how like I'll let it influence me if I allow it to, but what
Right.
is someone's drama that's taking my focus off of me
That's
and what I
right.
have going on for me? Like it's so crazy. Like you said, just taking a step back and focusing on yourself and the fact that you matter, your voice matters, what you feed your body matters, how you think matters.
That's right.
It's all a trifecta. I said it from the
That's right.
start of the episode. Like, and if we just put the focus back on ourselves individually and less focus on what others are doing, I think that in its alone would shift so much in this world.
Yeah, and that is why I teach. That's why I love teaching the most, because I get to communicate to people that actually showed up to my class, not people that I'm in their face telling them
Right,
what they should do, but people who attend willingly
right,
and want to know, okay, how do I live my life with intention? How does that work? How do I become better? How do I heal myself? How do I turn around some of these chronic diseases that I have? That's where I feel, after all these years, that's where my work fits in. Is how do I communicate to someone, give them information and whatever they can use, and then I always tell them, leave the rest. Leave the
yep.
rest.
Take what resonates and leave the rest. And I
That's
mean,
right.
this is awesome because you've had a successful background being featured in the New York Times, being on Oprah and all these other platforms. How has that helped you shape and deliver this message? Because I mean, over the years, you've taught so many things and been involved with so many things. How has that impacted getting your message across to people?
Well, initially, it was before I write, okay? So it was people being willing and open enough to hear me. You know how that works.
Right,
Sharing information, uh, that people can literally use. So it's just opening more ears,
right.
opening more hearts, opening more minds. But it's still a journey, and it's still a big job. It's still a big job. It is work, which it is
Oh
work,
yeah.
but it's work that doesn't feel like work. It's work that
Yeah.
really makes me happy, brings me joy. Because if I have one person That's what the plant based gives me now is I have people showing up. Oh my God, you know, I thank you. You know, I got something I can try, and I don't put pressure on people to do anything. To do
Yep.
anything. So, but there's one thing. What is one thing you can do? And this is to your audience too. What is one thing you can do to support your mind, body, and your spirit? One thing.
Yep. You have to
Who would
find joy.
That's right, but who would you be if you could find your way? Who would you
Right.
be? I want your
Exactly.
audience to think about that. Who would you be?
Absolutely. I love that. I love leaving that tool because the possibility, that's what a lot of people, I feel like, we're still in that, split era here. There's a lot of us that are waking up and realizing the possibilities that are limitless.
Yes.
That people, we're put on here to love, to learn, to grow, to be in the moment, to live in the moment, not worrying about tomorrow or whatever. It's like being in the moment, living in the moment, and absorbing as much information and learning and doing it with love and compassion and
Mhm,
empathy for others
mhm.
and yourself. And taking away the perfectionism and just opening up and being optimistic about that you are a limitless
Mhm.
individual, and whatever you put your mind to, you can create and be, and you could be many things, because I think labels and titles also limit us too.
Yeah.
You know, Titles. We're
Yes.
many things, and we could be many things all at once. I'm a mom, I'm a podcaster, I'm an author,
Right.
I'm a coach.
Right.
There's so
Right.
many titles, but not limit ourselves to
That's
just
right.
a title, and being open and just curious about the limitless possibilities, and then embracing it with passion and curiosity is a magnificent thing. It really is, and it just
It
sets you
is.
on this direction of, wow, what else can I do? What
What
else?
else can I
What?
do? So when
Right.
we learn, we teach, and someone else that's probably listening today, when they learn, they teach. That's
Yep.
how it unfolds.
And it's the domino effect. I
That's
truly
right.
feel that it's a domino effect. And what, out of everything that you've done thus far, out of all, I know you said teaching, what has your clientele been fascinated or curious about besides the plant-based nutrition? Is there anything that you find yourself talking with your students more about? What are they curious about that they're trying to learn from you?
One Another big area that I talk about and teach about are boundaries, healthy boundaries. I actually teach that class tomorrow. And that's what a lot of I get invited to a lot of podcasts, and I talk about those boundaries because those boundaries are going to help us protect what's important.
Yes.
And people resonate with those boundaries, and they recognize. Some people say, "Oh, my life is fine. You know, everything's good." And then when I say, "Well, what is it costing you not to have boundaries?" And that's when the talking starts because, well,
That's a good seed to plant. I
yeah,
love that.
yeah, yeah. So
Seriously.
that's the second most popular topic that I talk about. And I talk about and teach that a lot. And I love that because even though I teach other classes, it really helps me to gauge the interests of the world, really.
Right.
So
What
I love
people are
that.
being put, what people are willing to put up with.
That's
And this
right.
is speaking from someone that 20 years ago, I didn't even know what a boundary was. I was a people pleaser, a yes person. Yes, yes, yes. And it's like,
We
what's
all
different?
childhood sets us up for this. So just
Oh
know
yeah.
that. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
especially I know my generation definitely.
Mine too.
Okay.
Oh
So
yeah.
you really don't, and I me too. Don't understand the boundary thing until you get in a workplace, until you're older, until someone's crossing in and out of your bound. Because as kids, we don't have any boundaries. Nobody, at least in my generation, nobody cared what we thought.
Same.
People are crossing in and out of your boundaries or your life, telling you what you need to do, what not to do. So that's how we get set up for this.
Yep.
And some of
Yep.
us have different experiences, but some of us, even as we get older, we still don't understand what's happening. We know in our gut that people are asking me and telling me things I don't want to do, but I have no idea of
Right.
how to tell them to stop, or
Right.
how can I learn how to not be so vulnerable or just be so open where people are just walking in and out of my boundaries. So I love teaching that class, and teaching it all these years has really helped me to perfect it in my own life.
Oh
It
yeah.
really has.
Oh yeah. No, I was like so happy like when I started implementing boundaries in my life. Now I have no problem saying no. Like I tell my kids no is a complete sentence. I don't
That's
have to
right.
give you an
That's
explanation.
right. And
And it's
I
so it's challenging. It is because especially in our both our generations, children were seen, not heard.
that's
And
right.
that set us up for failure
That's right.
because
It did.
people people took the title of mother, father, aunt, uncle,
That's
whatever,
right.
literally,
Teacher.
and like the
That's right.
child was nothing. And it's like, but
That's
we're
right.
human
I
beings,
I feel I feel that's changing a little. I do feel
Yes,
that way. At
me
least I
too.
see my son and my daughter and my grandkids. That has changed a
Yep.
little. It really has. But some people still, we just grow up like that. It's just
Yeah.
it's no judgment on our parents. It's just how things are set up. Because our
Right.
teachers telling us, every adult is telling us what we should and should not do.
Yep.
And some of us don't have those experiences where we get to grow out of it or make decisions for ourselves. We just grow up differently. And
Right.
because I have all ages, and these are adults, I have. I was surprised when I started getting the younger people, and I loved it because, I love it. But I literally have middle aged people coming to the class, and
Right.
I love it because people really want boundaries. Because if you
Yes.
have your boundaries in place, you'd be surprised what you can do with your life. You'd
Oh
be
yeah.
surprised because a lot of times, and we all have been there, you learn that I am doing stuff for so many people. No wonder I can't get to me. And I
Yep.
always tell people, you have to have courage to have a boundary,
That's right.
because the people that need the boundary check, they
Yep.
they're the ones that are going to get mad when you say, you know what, let's talk about this. I'm not gonna, you know come and pick you up for, this organizational meeting anymore. I decided that it no longer serves me or fulfills me, so I'm going to do something. It's hard to tell the truth to people, but guess
Right.
what? That's part of setting healthy boundaries, is being authentic about
Yes.
what's important to you. It doesn't matter if it's your husband, your children. You have to figure out, what do I need? And guess what, ladies?
Yep.
Yes. What do I need? Yes. What do I need?
That's
Not being
right.
selfish. I call it being self honoring. Because if
Yes.
you honor yourself, you're going to show up full, fully engaged for all the people you love.
I
In
always say you can't
society,
give from an empty cup. It's
you
like you have to
you
come first.
can't.
Can't.
You really have to. And it makes you happier, fuller, wanting to be with people. And it also helps people when you really empower them versus leaning on you, because I always say we get what we ask for.
That's
So if
right.
you're bogged down, then what I advocate is that you look at how you're using your time, what's for you and what's for them. And I say them because it's anything outside of what you're doing. And all you
Right.
need to do is rethink, reprioritize what's working and what's not working. And guess what? It's okay to tell people that you don't want to do a certain thing. It's
Right.
really okay, but it's hard. And I get that it's hard, but this is where
Oh
the
yeah.
courage comes in. And people
Right.
say, you know what, I'm scared, I'm afraid. And you know what I tell them? Do it anyway. And
Right.
what happens if you don't do it? We all have had that experience. If you're saying you're afraid, but guess what? Someone asks you to do something over and over and over again, and all of a sudden you just blow up.
You get
You
resentful.
just blow up like
Yeah.
a crazy person.
No.
So do you want to be proactive in that? Set your boundaries, or do you want to wait until you just hear this one ask too many times and then you're just a complete monster about it?
Right. And you
Think
have no
about
one to
that.
blame but
And it
yourself
takes
for not
courage.
sending, right.
That's
You have no one
right.
to blame but
That's
yourself for not setting the boundary to begin with. And what I've also learned is that it is not my responsibility or my problem how the other person takes my boundary. If I say no, and again, I want to stress that when you implement a boundary, it has to be done in a respectful manner too.
I always say with
How
love and kindness, with love and
exactly.
kindness.
But it's not your responsibility how the other person takes it.
But
If they're insulted, that's because they don't have boundaries of their own.
and what happened, and this is what happens when we don't communicate clear
Yep.
and firmly. And it's okay if people don't like what we say.
That's right.
It's really okay. But even if you say it and you're afraid and it's okay,
Right.
because it does take courage. It does
That's
take
right.
courage to set firm and healthy boundaries. And I
That's
just
right.
advocate that you practice on something really small.
Yep.
Real, and then some people say, well, how do you know that you're having a boundary that's being violated? I'm like, oh, you know,
Oh
you
yeah.
know,
You
that
feel it.
inkling. Yeah, you know that inkling in your stomach and in your mind, you're saying, what the hell? I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this. You already know. Whether
Yep.
you do something about it, that's it. But you know.
Yep.
You know, and that is our uh instinct. That is our wisdom telling us that this is really something that I don't want to do. And I tell you, at this point in my life, my wisdom, my intuition drives me. And
Oh yeah.
it's never wrong. You know how people say, you know what? I told myself not to do that, and I did it anyway. I mean, you did not listen.
Right.
It's
Yep.
there for a reason.
That's
And
right.
you know what? It's okay. You have no, like you said, you have no control over whose feelings get hurt because you are communicating with love and kindness. It's
Right.
it's a conversation. It's a negotiation.
Right.
So you may say, I don't want to do this today. I'll do it tomorrow. Or you may say, no, that's something I don't want to do. And guess
That's
what?
right.
That is okay.
Yes, it is. And it's empowering because the more and more you
It
do it,
is.
the better you'll get at it. And the more you'll
Oh
be
my
like, nope,
goodness.
nope,
And
no,
it
like,
and it
no,
comes out really quick, doesn't it? My one time my son was like, Mom, you want to go so and so? I'm like, no. Oh, okay.
right.
Why? And he
It's
said,
like
why?
second
I said,
nature.
I just don't want to do it.
Right. No
But
complete sentence.
it takes practice,
That's
and you
right.
have to build that confidence. I always say build that muscle.
That's
But
right.
it's one step at a time, and it literally takes practice. And you can't say, oh, I don't want to hurt someone's feeling, even though it's hurting. What is it costing you to keep doing this versus sharing
Exactly.
with someone that you don't know long? I mean, you got to ask yourself that question too.
That's right. I couldn't agree more. Diane, it was I am so happy you came on today. This was amazing. Like seriously, I would love for you to tell my guests, my people watching, where can people reach you if they want to reach out to you for classes? I know you're in Chicago, so obviously
Yes.
local there, but for your coaching programs and how to get a hold of you, where can they go?
They can go to www.dianerandallconsults.com, and they can type in plant-based curious community or plant-based curious podcast just in Google. And my podcast, my community, and my website, and all my resources will come up on the
Awesome.
website.
And you
Yes.
guys know, I'll put that in the description box. Thank you guys so, so much for watching. Remember to hit that subscribe button. Help me grow this channel. I love you guys. And until next time, be well. Take care.